Good evening. This is Debra V. Wilson, and it is Wednesday, the 8th of August, 2018. The time is 1800 hours and 39 minutes, and that's GMT, and I'm in London, England. I will go back tomorrow and add graphics of photo images to this podcast. But I wanted to make sure I remembered everything just as it happened, so I'm doing it now, and it's essentially a voice-only podcast. Well, I guess that's what podcasts are. Anyway, I'm sorry, my apologies, and I'm a tad bit jet-lagged. In any case, I'm in London, England. It's very emotional for me to be back here. Uh, The number one emotion I feel is a sense of loss. Uh, I, I am a religious person. I construct God as order, the systems in the universe that literally guide our existence. Though the coexistence, the way in nature things coexist, in this solar system, and our bodies, the way things coexist, those systems, that's how I construct God. And I think that each of us who are granted the joy of experiencing life participate in facilitating the maintaining order. How, that's literally how I construct the creator. And in that light, I think everyone is born with talents, and those talents you bring to bear to foster a sense of cohesiveness, order, getting along, however you see when things are working. I thought because I just got here and I'm working on a lot of things and juggling a lot of things in the air at the moment, I literally thought today would be a day off. It was not. I got out and I did work. And for me, work is simply observing and talking with people. It's the first time in over 7 years that I've been in London, England, and actually worked with people. As I was reacclimating myself today, I literally went around and talked to people on the street and introduced myself and said the type of research I was doing and that I was going to be doing field work in London, but it's actually London and beyond. And I just started talking to people about things big and little, items of clothing they had on, what that meant for them, and how that defined them. I saw two very young people in their late 20s, maybe early 30s. It looked like they'd been living, they live on the streets. And they appeared to have looking at the state of their bodies, it appeared they were had some sort of addiction challenge. Well, in any case, they were dirty, and I went over physically, and I went over and I talked to them for a bit. The woman, it was a man and a woman. The woman was doing caretaking, and there was dirt and something else on her partner, a man's ears, and she was literally picking it off and telling me that's what she was doing. But what struck me was they were literally in the doorway of a building, and their clothes were dirty. Again, they looked in ill health. And one of the things I noticed is how respectful and mannerable in their conversation they were with me. And clearly the point they are in their lives isn't an optimal place to be. It isn't what you strive for, but I looked at the way in which these two people continued to engage in their connection to the divine, uh, grooming, one grooming the other, and then their way of engaging with me being polite and respectful. I saw an incident earlier before I saw this young couple of what turned out to be a Brazilian woman receiving hate speech from a white English man. I I was having my dinner. I was literally sitting outside having my dinner in a public space, a sandwich and some water, and I saw this incident. There was no, she was on a bicycle, and the Englishman, the white Englishman, perceived the bicycle to be too close to him, and he kicked the bike. And when she started speaking, he heard an accent that was not indicative to an accent from the UK, and he asked her where she was from, and that's when she said she was from Brazil, and he called her some derogatory names. There was violence. The violence was verbal, and the kicking of the bicycle, by the white Englishman. The white Englishman was quite elderly and quite frail, and she appeared to be late 20s, early 30s. To be blunt, although it's distasteful as it was, as unpleasant, I didn't see the violent escalating. As a matter of fact, when she began to scream at him, he took off. Nevertheless, I don't minimize it. As he took off, and she happened to be walking towards me, and I asked what happened, and what I wanted to hear her take on it, and she gave me her take. And then after she left, I was looking around because it's nice out. It's a nice evening. It's quite humid. It's hot here. And so there are people out and about. And I was curious to know how it registered with people. So I went to a young black man who maybe 21, definitely nowhere near his 30s. And he also appeared to be Muslim. I went and introduced myself to him and told him a little bit about me. And I said, this isn't official. And I said, it's literally, I'm reacclimating myself, getting myself reacquainted. And I asked him if he had seen the incident between the white Englishman and the Brazilian woman. He said no, and I told him what happened, and then we began to talk about the incident that he had not seen, but his conversation around the incident was how he viewed his identity. He lives in East London, and he appeared to be Muslim, and I then asked, and I said, I am Muslim myself. Are you Muslim? He said, yes, I am. And he then went on to talk about his identity and how he felt about being a Londoner and a Muslim and living in East London. It wasn't negative, but I guess I don't even want to analyze it at this point because that's not what this was today. I saw a young man who owned a business, and I was talking to him. He had beautiful teeth, and he said, "Oh, that's very nice of you to say that." And he said I had made his day, and then he started showing me his teeth. He was in his 30s, and we talked a little bit, and we laughed. It was this really hearty laugh. And he's very attractive and quite fit, and his teeth matched the entire of his physical presentation, which was a great deal of care given to physical self. And he was quite pleased that someone noticed it. He literally thanked me for noticing it. I needed a tube map. It's the ones I have, if I even still have them, are literally almost a decade old. So I saw two black men talking, and in the tube station, one was clearly a tube employee by what he had on, the other one wasn't. And so I just stood there, he said, he asked me, he says, "Is something you want, love?" And I said, I don't want to be the person that asks the black person a question just because they're standing in the store. And he said, "Oh no, I get you." And I said, before I did get it out. I asked, "Do you work here?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "I know where you're coming from. I get you." And so I ended up having a discourse, a tiny, small discourse between these two black men. Again, talking very little, very slight conversations. So I met my taxi driver this afternoon. Is from Ghana, and he told me we talked because the traffic here. Good Lord. We ended up talking. I was in that taxi forever. The meter bore witness to that. Uh, and we ended up talking about his life as an immigrant here. There isn't anything horrific I have to say, nor am I seeking to say anything horrific, but how he and his wife placed themselves here, what they have children, and the ages of the children, and the children are bearing fruit to their time here in the UK, and what that has meant for them. We talked about black people in the UK. We talked about immigrants in the UK. We talked about Canada. He asked me, because I actually see myself, I'll always see myself as coming from the south side of Chicago today and every day, but I actually see myself as coming from Winnipeg. So I'm Winnipeg in Canada. So when people ask me, like they always do, because my accent is always quite muddled the longer I stay, even mere minutes that I stay in London, England, my accent becomes more and more muddled, and I'm always asked, "Where are you from?" And so I hesitate, and now I say, "Oh, I'm from Winnipeg, that's in Canada." "Oh, you're Canadian." And no, I'm actually American, but I'm from Winnipeg in Canada, a city in Canada. So today was again reaching out, engaging. Um, from what I gather in my followings on YouTube, um, and reading and talking with people, not this trip, but in general over the years, always trying to stay engaged, no matter how tangentially, always trying to stay engaged. I I gather this is a trying time for the UK. Uh, it's not a time to leave her people, literally or metaphorically. It's time for me to get back and contribute whatever I have to bring to the table. I have so much work to still do in Canada. In Israel, um, I do worry because I do not construct things as the way in which the Prime Minister does, Bibi Netanyahu. Uh, Nevertheless, I don't feel that my presence in Israel is a destructive one. I tend to seek group efforts, group from all identities to come to a collective decision. So I'm hoping I can still travel to Israel because I feel I have so much work to do there as well. I know this podcast is a bit scattered, but today it was so emotional. My voice is cracking up. I'm trying not to cry, not having much luck. Being back in London, England, um, you have to understand that no matter how challenging the problems are for Brits, no matter how complex, and Allah knows I think they have a complex set of challenges at the moment, I have never found the time that you might have to get through a lot of pain and gnashing of teeth. And sometimes you even have to make sure you have yourself a security apparatus that surrounds you. But I have never experienced the time that British people, even in Birmingham, which was difficult for me, I've never experienced a time in which British people didn't want to bear witness to how they experience self and country. So the challenge is to be able to conduct those conversations in an appropriate and fruitful manner that is respectful and dignified for the person that's bearing witness, and that in a case such as mine, that's ultimately for research purposes, that's fruitful and again, respectful. So that's to say that I find I'm aware Britain has challenges, and I'm aware they're extremely complex challenges. I'm aware that collectively some are afraid a bit. Uh, uh, British underspeak. I've only been here a few hours and I'm now doing it myself. I'm aware there are some very serious challenges economically. My realm is security and intelligence, policing, and I'm aware the country has very serious challenges in those areas. Nevertheless, British people are still who they are. I have not found them to have changed in that regard at all. Maybe more frightened, maybe more apprehensive, maybe feeling let down, maybe, but they're still who they are. And there's people that want to talk, want to engage. That might be at times very difficult to hear. It might be at times quite emotive, and in some rare instances, it may become physical. But on the whole, British people, again, might be in some pain now, might be experiencing some fear and anger, I should add that to it, but they're still who they are. They have not lost self. So that's a little bit about today. Tomorrow is a busy day for me as well. I've got to sort out some things. I have to reach out to some people. I want to get going on I need to reach out to some people, and I have a project that I want to pitch. It's civil society, but it's better than not to get to let the British government know and the Israeli government. I've already reached out made preliminary efforts to reach out to the Israeli embassy. So, because I want to do the work here in the UK, the activist work, civil society work. It's also a part of my research here in the UK. So that would be Israel's embassy. And in terms of the UK, it would be the British government. So I have to put together something to talk about that and start that conversation. So I have a lot to do, and I will keep you updated on the big and small, wherever appropriate and I think necessary. Definitely, though, my results I'll post, and I will keep up to date on my podcast. This is Debra V. Wilson, and I'll post a thumbnail and graphics, pictures of some sort. I don't know what kind of pictures I'm going to post, but I'll post pictures. That'll be tomorrow. In any case, this is Debra V. Wilson. I'm in London, England. Thank you.